afternoon, everybody. My name is Joanna Podgoetsky, and I'm a product manager in Azure Data Engineering. Joining me is David Lavenda, who's VP of Product at Harmony, and what we're here to talk about today is a new set of features that we're making available in preview, which is basically facilitating partners to build intelligent applications leveraging managed access to Microsoft Graph data in Azure. What I'd like partners to get out of this session today is really to understand how other partners have actually leveraged this technology to be able to gain insights and unlock very valuable data from their Office 365 environments, and really understand how you can do that and how you can get started. As a customer, one of the things that I'd like you to understand out of today is really how you can reach new levels of productivity using this new set of features that we're announcing today. So, managed access to graph data in Azure. What is that all about? So, who here is an existing Microsoft Graph customer or user? Any Office 365 customers here? Okay, fair majority. Any Azure customers here? Okay, that's fantastic. So what we're enabling today is the ability for you to do bulk ingestion of Office 365 data into Azure, into what we term a managed application boundary. So what that means for you as a partner is that you can actually develop applications for customers where the customer's sensitive data, such as the data that resides in Office 365, never actually leaves the customer's boundary. That is a huge value proposition for customers, particularly in today's climate of data privacy concerns. So basically, the ability to ingest data in bulk is facilitated by Azure Data Factory. We're releasing a new connector in preview as of today, which allows you to basically connect to your Office 365 environment and ingest data into a data sink in bulk. Where can you ingest this kind of data? So we're letting you ingest this kind of data into Azure Data Lake, Azure Blob Storage as initial data sinks, with the added benefit of being able to perform policy management over that data. So for example, if you want to develop an application that basically sets a policy on that data, that means that that data should always be encrypted or that data should always be audited, you're able to enforce these sorts of policies over those data sinks. So that's a really huge value prop for our customers. Secondly, data stays within your customers as your subscription. So if you're a partner that has developed an application that's unlocking insights for a large set of customers, that basically means that that data doesn't have to leave the Azure tenant of your customer to your tenant for privacy, for scrubbing or wrangling or all of those sorts of things. All of the logic can actually be carried out within the managed application boundary of your customers as your subscription. Thirdly, another really cool feature is the customer has the power to approve or decline data movement. What that actually means is that every time they see an Office 365 admin logs into the portal, they'll actually see a request for the data movement that the partner has initiated within the managed application boundary. And the Office 365 admin has the power to approve or decline that data movement request. Another very cool feature, and we are releasing that feature through a tool called Privileged Access Management. I mentioned briefly that there's going to be an element of governance applied to your data, which basically means that as a partner, you can create a set of policies that this data needs to adhere to, such as encryption, such as auditing, such as geofencing. And of course, you get to leverage the power of Microsoft Azure. So what we're really enabling you to do is use the full set of tools and capabilities that we have in analytics and AI today within Microsoft Azure to develop all sorts of awesome applications around your data using tools such as Azure Databricks, HD Insight, ML capabilities, cognitive services, Power BI, all of the awesome tools of the cloud to be able to do really awesome things with this data. So previously, you were able to get to this data through Microsoft Graph APIs, but there are a few limitations with Graph APIs in that you actually had to ingest data ingest more data than you really needed, and we didn't have the security and compliance that we're offering today with this new set of features. So with that, I've been running an early adopter program for the last few months, and one of our fantastic partners is here today to talk about what they've actually built over this new set of features. So I'm just going to hand over to David.
Hi, so my name is David Lavenda. I'm Vice President of Products at Harmony. And as Joanna described, Harmony has built an application using a lot of the great new capabilities that Microsoft has made available. But I'd like to, before we get to how we use those technologies, I'd like to describe exactly what it is that we've done from an end user perspective. I think we all know the problem that we're addressing at Harmony, which is that it's getting hard to focus. It's always been hard to focus at work, but it's getting even harder. A lot of distractions and things, lots of different applications, different devices, and people are finding it very difficult to focus on what matters most. And one of the reasons for that is there's just too much information. I mean, I think most of you will be able to understand the experience of coming to work. I'm working on a project, and I start with email, and then I go, well, okay, maybe there's something going on in a team conversation. Well, maybe someone wrote a SharePoint, there's a document in SharePoint, maybe OneDrive, maybe there's a team document, maybe there's some sort of, we're using Planner. Basically, I spend a lot of time toggling around looking for information when I really care about is my project. And that's really the problem that Harmony is addressing with this new offering, Harmony 10. And that is we take all those Office 365 artifacts and organize them by topics, the way you think. So instead of toggling between all the different Office 365 apps looking for information and probably missing some important pieces of information, what we do is we surface that information by the topics you care about: products, services, projects, kind of things that you work with on a daily basis. And the way we do that, and I'll make this very concrete by showing you an example of the product, because I think picture tells 1,000 words, and in this case it probably tells 10,000 words, because it sounds very abstract, but when you see it, it's really cool. The way we do this is we use the power of the Microsoft Graph. So we look at all those artifacts and the connections between the people sharing them and creating them, and we use that as a core layer. And as Joanna said, some of the things that we initially tried to do with the Microsoft Graph were very difficult, and now with the new capabilities in the managed apps through the Azure, we've got some amazing capabilities that allow us to take this to the next step. And what we do with all that graph data is we then extract the topics from your emails, your app notifications, from your documents, and we match those topics and surface the ones that are most important to you. So let's see how this works, because I think it'll be much clearer once you see this in action. Okay, so most of you will recognize this part of the screen is Outlook, right? How many people here don't recognize that? That'd be pretty odd. This is where we all spend most of our workday. And what we've done is we've created a sidebar which resides in Outlook. I've made it especially wide so you can see some of the detail, but obviously it's a bit smaller than this. And when you come to work in the beginning of the day, when you open up your email, what you see on the side of the screen is your 5 top topics. And what I'm showing you here is actually an example of a customer that we're working with. It's a very large conservation organization. And the kind of things that a typical worker would see when they came to work would be things like fundraising. So it's a non-profit organization. A lot of effort goes into fundraising. They're doing a lot about saving nature. They have a digital workplace program. Always care about the visitors coming to visit the different conservation sites. So these are the kind of things that the person's top topics might be for the day. And this is calculated again using the Microsoft Graph and some of the managed apps for Azure that allow you to extract this information. And what you do is you say, okay, so I'm interested in fundraising. I got a big project going on. I literally drill down on this, and now I see all the topics that are connected to it. So what we've done is we've taken all your Office 365 information, the information you already have, but we've organized it the way you think, because people think in topics and associated topics. So I see fundraising. I've got some campaigns that are running, so I want to look at those campaigns. And I could continue navigating the graph, this topic graph. What I want to see is what type of documents and emails I have related to the campaigns. So I see that I've got 19 total artifacts, 7 emails, 11 documents, and 1 calendar event. And if I want to actually see what those are, I can literally just click on this. And I drill down, and now what I see is I see all those artifacts that are related to it. So I see I've got a Word document in OneDrive, I've got an email that I've stored in SharePoint, I've got some Teams, some documents stored in Teams. So now instead of having to look for all this stuff, which I probably would miss if I didn't know exactly what I was looking for to begin with, this stuff just pops up organized by the topics that I care about. And naturally what you want to do at the end of the day is you want to work on these things. So if I click on the document itself, what Harmony does is it launches the native app in context. So I launch that Saving Nature leaflet, which I can then work on, edit, make all the changes that I want to it. And then when I'm done, I can close it. And when I close that document, I go right back to where I was. Again, focused on the topic that I care about, which is in this case the fundraising campaigns that I'm working on. And I can also see what the other topics related to the fundraising campaigns and click through on those so that I can literally just follow my topics trail the way that I'm thinking, very much abstracted out, and all the documents and emails are kind of hidden away in the sense that I only look at what I really need to look at and what I'm interested in seeing. So that's just a very quick demo of how this works. Of course, there's a lot of smarts that go on behind the scenes here in order to get this to work, and a lot of that is what Joanna was talking about in terms of how we do that. So just maybe a few words about how we do that. So some of the technologies that we use to actually get this to work. So we take the Office 365 data from Azure, the managed applications from Azure, as it's called. We use the Azure Data Factory. There's a Cosmos database, is the graph database that stores our topics. Of course, the Microsoft Graph and a lot of the APIs there. We're also doing natural language processing on the emails, so we're taking the topics, extracting topics from emails, the content, and from the headers. And what's really important, as Joanna mentioned, is that all this takes place on your tenant. It's all very secure. There's governance, so none of this ever gets exposed. It's security trimmed using your policies. So all of this is both secure, robust, and actually quite helpful and useful. And of course, we add the topic user experience within Outlook. This, by the way, the Outlook, the user experience also runs in Teams. It also runs as it's a web app, so basically runs anywhere you want. But we find people spend their lives in Outlook, so that's why we surface that in Outlook. A couple of benefits for what we're doing here. One is we have Office 365 Data Firehose is one of the things that we get from some of the new Microsoft announcements. This is an old name, I apologize for the name. This is the managed app capabilities. It's secure. The data is stored, processed, and accessed all on the tenant. There's also opt-out, so for example, if you have executives or other people who you don't want to participate in this, so other people won't see their topics, that can be done quite easily. And it's very easy to install because it's all done through the marketplace, through the standard method of installation. So that's just a few words on how this works, and I'd be happy to talk about this later. We have a booth, number 708. I'm happy to show this to you folks and explain how it works more in depth, and turn it back over to Joanna.
Thank you, David. So Harmony just talked about some of the great benefits that they've reaped from this early adopter program. So what we're actually inviting you to do today is actually join our preview program if you think this is something that you're going to be interested in. So I'm gonna put up the URL of the preview program shortly. It's basically a form you can go and sign up, give us your details, and we'll get you all the documentation that you need to get started, as well as an alias you can email just to ask questions and things like that. But before that, I want to just reiterate what we're actually offering today. So first of all, the application logic. So you as partners build this application that runs within the customer's Azure tenant. So that's the first really important value prop that I want to re-emphasize. Secondly, you can publish this application to the Azure Marketplace, which basically is a one-click install for your customers. They basically deploy this application into their Azure subscription. And of course, you get access to all of the great data capabilities, data analytics and AI capabilities of the Azure cloud. And of course, customers will have enhanced control over their data. So basically, if you're bringing in data, certain data sets, the customer will see what you're actually requesting to bring in, and they get the opportunity to approve that. So all data movement requires approval. And of course, Data only gets transferred if it complies with the policies that you've defined. That's another really important point. And the other nice thing is that the developer application is managed with no effort for the customer. So they don't actually have to do anything to maintain it or anything like that. It just runs within this managed application boundary. So what I'd like you to do today is sign up to the preview program. The URL is aka.ms/managed-access-ms-graph. Make sure you put in all your details. I will say it is a limited number of preview allocations, so make sure you fill it in as soon as possible. If you have any feedback or any questions, these are my details. Feel free to pop me an email or come and speak to me after this session. Okay, and with that, please make sure you complete your evaluations. You will go into a draw to win some Inspire prizes, such as a free pass to next year's Inspire event, or a discount on next year's Inspire event. So with that, have a fantastic conference, and thank you so much for joining my session.